Hey everybody, it's Alexander Dahl with Manifest Fatality once again. So here we go with another interview that's ready. As we've done before, we'll just keep going through them until they're all out. Alright, here you go. But Alright, so I'm currently on the phone with Lazarus. He's another one of the musicians that reached out to me about the current interview series. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Yeah, hi, I am Lazarus, for those listening, and I can be found at I'm Lazarus Music all over the internet, and yeah, happy to be here today.
Excellent. So I always like to start in the beginning, as they say. How did you kind of first identify with music? What was it about music that you found, you could relate to?
Definitely an element of comedy, I think, oddly enough. I don't know if I realized it at the time, but I always sort of liked lyrics that could make me laugh a little bit. And I found that later in life now I've started to incorporate that a bit more into, or it's become a bit more of a trademark of my lyric writing as well. So it's kind of funny. I've been sort of realizing that lately that there's a good element of humor. And even when you think about, like, say, for instance, my favorite band, the Beatles, there's a lot of kind of jokey, corny lyrics in their catalog as well, when you really sit and think about it, some of the things that are being sung.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yes. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Go on.
No, that was all I was going to say. Just, that's been a more recent realization of mine, is the comedy element. But of
Sure.
course, just great melodies and great songwriting too. I've always been an unapologetic fan of pop songs and even country songs. As far as genre, it doesn't really matter to me, because I always think of a song and with my ability to maybe play it as an acoustic cover or something. So
Mm-hmm.
then to me, it really doesn't sound like a country song or a pop song or a rock song or anything like that. It just ends up being a good song.
Sure. So how did you kind of take that inspiration for like kind of the comedic nature of music and then move into like putting a band together and then like playing music? Like what was the steps there?
Um, yeah, that's it was just sort of like me and a couple of high school friends just kind of happened to have different instruments. It was like one of us had a guitar, one had a bass, and one had drums, and we just sort of started playing, Ramones songs in our bedroom. And then, excuse me, and then I think one day it was like, hey, why don't we have some people over to watch us practice our songs?
Mm-hmm.
And then it, like, when that day came, we kind of set up little chairs in a living room and had a little private performance, and that was kind of like the first official show. But then it dawned on us. I was like, hey, I think we're a band. And yeah, and then I forget the very first step, how that happened. Or no, actually, I do remember. There's a teen youth center by where I live in
Mm-hmm.
Burnsville, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I live there, but that's close to where I live. Called the Garage, and they would host a kind of like a new band night kind of thing. You just go and sign up, like you didn't have to struggle to get booked. Anybody could play.
Mm-hmm.
And it was through that you met other musicians who then put you on other shows and things of that nature, and it just sort of snowballs from there.
Sure. So would you say that, that's kind of the ideal content and stuff that you kind of work for to bring out more of the, comedic sense in writing and then also like stylizing your music?
Yeah, to be honest, it really is something I don't mind being associated with, and I don't necessarily try and intentionally infuse comedic content, but
Mm-hmm.
just me by my nature, I'm pretty lighthearted and definitely into comedy and humor in general. So it's really just an extension of my personality, which it used to be something that back in the day in my very first band writing songs, the lyrics would be kind of funny back then too, but I wasn't really mature enough to realize it. For a while I just thought they were dumb, but then some people would say, no, that was kind of clever. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it reeks of adolescence, but there was bits of cleverness there. And so, yeah, that's I don't know if I could sit down with the intention of trying to write something funny, but
Mhm.
normally I'm actually just kind of putting something down that's making me laugh in my own head. And I think to myself, oh, I bet somebody else would find this funny, and it's
Sure.
sort of the thing that kind of drives you nuts, and you'd sort of. I guess that's for me how melodies go as well. It's like I hear these melodies sometimes, and I
Mhm.
think to myself, well, that must be a song, and I come to realize it's not any song that I can tell of that I know. And after a while, I think to myself, geez, I got to like record this thing because it's starting to drive me nuts, and I don't want to like think about this melody anymore.
Sure. And so that kind of leads into what my next question was going to be. Over the past year and everything, nobody's been really able to get out and play shows. Have you been writing with your band to create more stuff to get out and book shows, or like what do you kind of feel like your next steps are?
Yep, I've been definitely writing was heavily focused on, as I'm sure it was for a lot of people during the times when all the venues were shut down. They're coming back slowly but surely now, and thankfully, also playing as a solo artist, I have that pitch when booking right now is I don't necessarily have to be in a band because that's what
Hmm.
some venues are a little worried about is having big get-togethers or gatherings, and my I can sort of approach them and just say, no, I can just sit in the corner and keep it easy and not draw too much attention or a crowd. And if certain places are extra worried about that kind of thing, but the other thing that really blossomed during the pandemic time was like just video content.
Hmm.
That's something I've tried to become way more uh, prolific at trying to post, is like just making sure I'm putting out video almost every day, if not every day, to varying degrees of quality. But at this point, I just kind of figured a lot of the advice that you'll get from people who are trying to show you how to make it in the music business or whatever, it'll usually just start with something along the lines of like, hey, just kind of start posting. Your content isn't always going to be great at first, but you just
Hmm.
sort of need to keep doing it because you're not going to get better unless you just kind of start at some point.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also the idea of, no matter what it is, just keeping the presence and, the awareness there.
Yep, that for sure. And I mean, yeah. So the same could be said for like say photo content or whatever. For me, I just
Hmm.
happen to have leaned more towards video recently, but that's because for me, I have a lot of songs that I've either written and or like cover, and so that just happens to be something that's easy for me to do is flip my phone open and not that I have a flip phone. I don't want anyone to think that,
Right.
but just get the phone out and press record and then throw that video footage up online. Like that just happens to be something that's easy for me to do, and so I've tried to stay consistent with that and just to see if I could see results from it. And to be honest, I have. It's like you said, the awareness thing. I definitely get a lot more like not random messages, but sort of reaching out messages from friends that are just like, "Oh, hey, I heard someone talking about needing a musician, and I thought of you." And
Hmm.
I think to myself, well, they probably wouldn't have thought of me if they hadn't seen me in their news feed a couple of
Hmm.
times a week or something, like. So yeah, it's just whether that's photo content or video content or just blogging, or I was going to say lyrical content, but
Hmm.
text content. If that's more your thing. I
Sure.
think just any content at this day and age, at this stage, is a good thing. I used to be way more hesitant about oversaturating with content, but
Hmm.
now I'm pretty well past that point.
Yeah, there's a certain point where you kind of just have to bite the bullet and just do it.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. Is just trying to bear down and say, okay, for better or worse, I'm gonna put myself out there, and because I always tell someone if you want to do something bad enough, you'll do it, and
Hmm.
that's where, yeah, I just wanted to definitely put myself out there, and I'd say I'd rather crash and burn and fail at this than not have tried at all.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. So, along those notes, where would you like to see, everything like your career go once we're all able to get out, play music, and go to shows and stuff? Like, what would be your ideal next steps?
Um, Getting right back to a regular booking or touring schedule. Ultimately, I guess to really tour as a solo artist would be my next biggest hope or goal. playing out is the next step of that, just kind of getting to play again locally and then expanding kind of to the region into the Midwest where I'm at.
Hmm.
Um, but I've never gotten to tour like extensively as a solo artist. So that's definitely sort of the next big landmark for me and the next big step in my career. And now I have my whole sort of sphere involves myself as a solo artist and a, a band that I play in, as well as like a couple other just real minimal side things. But that's sort
Hmm.
of the two main things. And like I said, the band has done some work like that. But ultimately, to be honest, it's preferable to tour as a solo artist because it's far cheaper and much less of a headache.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I'm excited about the idea of touring as a solo artist because every problem I ever had touring in a band was because of the guys I was touring with. Not any one person in particular, but just
Hmm.
the human dynamic of the thing. Um,
Yeah, it gets
and
tiresome and organizing
yeah,
schedules and everything. And
yeah, exactly. And so I'm really looking forward to just having the autonomy to kind of go out on my own and keep my own counsel of sorts.
sure. So, what are a couple like really prominent memories that you have, either playing music or going to a show or something, that has kind of really made an impact on you?
Sure. I think I'll try to go somewhat chronologically here. A very early one for me is 1994, and I was born in December of '86, so that would have me at like 6 years old or so.
Hmm.
Um, in 1994, I saw Van Halen on the Balance tour. My dad took me to that, and that was really cool. Just seeing Van Halen, and now knowing what I know now as a musician, how legendary of musicians they are, I can see why it was so impactful to see that good of a band live,
Hmm.
and have it have a really profound impact. Um, and yeah, I definitely. This is going to be a little bit more crass than I normally tend to be as a solo artist, but
Hmm.
one of the funnier things that ever happened is I remember seeing women flashing Van Halen in the front row. And I'm a little 6-year-old boy, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh wow, that you can just do that out here." I was like, "That's what goes on for these guys. Like, that's an interesting job." That was the famous John Lennon quote about Elvis. And he said, "Oh, that's a good job. All the ladies that scream at them."
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I just obviously that kind of always will stick in my memory too, as a just a young boy from a
Sure.
human perspective, not even from music. Um, but then definitely my like the first kind of biggest show I ever played was my very first band. We were a very punk rock band. We got like a cold call on MySpace back in the MySpace days. That'll tell you when that was.
Hmm.
That just asked us if we wanted to open for Rancid at which is another pretty well notable punk rock band from late '90s.
Hmm.
And yeah, so it was, and that was a pretty big deal for us because we were relatively unknown and we were playing to almost nobody in these tiny little places. And then this show was a 3,200 person venue, sold out, and it was just my band, the original band, the Cretans, we
Hmm.
were called. And then MXPX was the second band. They're also relatively well known in the punk rock world.
Yep.
And then Rancid.
Well,
Excuse
that's
me. So it
cool.
was a yeah, that was a very cool early thing. I think I was only about 20 when that happened, and
Hmm.
so that was a pretty early shot of adrenaline and confidence. And then the final, or maybe to do a more recent one,
Hmm.
just a few years ago, I was in a completely different band that happened to be lucky enough to be invited out by Neil Young to play at this benefit that he puts on every year for underprivileged children out in just by San Francisco. It's called Mountain View, California.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's called the Bridge School Benefit for Kids, and we got to, our band was the tiny old nobodies on the bill, and everybody else was just like giants of music, like literally Metallica, Willie Nelson, Neil Young, Roger Waters of Pink Floyd, and
Wow.
I'm like standing in a lunch line with these guys, like waiting for them to get, waiting to get my chicken or whatever,
Hmm.
and it's like it was pretty surreal. And yeah, we got a little bit of prep talk on that one about how to act around the big time guys, because like we've been around like well-known musicians before, but these
Hmm.
guys border on like celebrity,
Right,
like
right.
not just, and so there's a certain code of conduct around them, not bothering them basically.
Hmm. Very
But that was
cool.
also really fun too. Yeah.
So, what are some links where people can, take a listen to the stuff that you're working on?
Yeah, I'd love for if anyone checked me out on their preferred social media. You can find me at I am Lazarus music.com, or facebook.com / I'm Lazarus music, or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, whatever, like I said, your preferred social media is. People can find me there, and I'd definitely love it if people checked my social medias out. Like I said, I am trying to post video content every single day, so I can guarantee if you go there, you will see new posts from me. I just posted something right before I went to work today, and so yeah. Um,
Perfect. And so, I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out like their last word. So, just like a message that you kind of feel resonates with you.
mm, ooh, that's good. I guess I hope to see people out and about, live and in person again. And yeah, I hope, like I said, they can take away from this interview that I take my music seriously, but there's definitely a lot of lighthearted nature to my personality as well. So if I joke with people, or if I might come off a little playfully mean, it's definitely in good nature. I'm a very joking person, but have a little bit of a dark sense of humor. So if I give you a hard time sometimes, definitely don't take it personally. I'm always just trying to get a laugh out of somebody, whoever I'm talking to. So I hope to meet some people in the future who might be listening to this, and get to joke around with them, and maybe share a drink or something.